KCYP 97.7 FM. Thank you for another great edition. Thank you for joining us for another great edition of the Bitcoin Otter Show with the Bitcoin Otter himself, Chris Ott. Thank you for bearing with us. I don't know if you remembered last week we walked into a waterfalls in our studio, and so we're gonna be undergoing some remodeling. And so bear with us. Next week we might be broadcasting from a different location. It all depends if we can get this place back to where it should be, or even better than it was before. It'll give us a chance to remodel a bit here in the studio and change some stuff around. So thank you for bearing with us and for joining us. We want to welcome everyone that's joining us over 97.7, the City 977. So once again, we have a good show for you today with lots and lots of great information. So I'm going to toss it over to Chris Ott.
Greetings, blessings, and good fortune, everyone. Yes, it's the Bitcoin Otter Show again. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming by. Thank you for giving us your time. Time is life, and attention is something that everyone craves, and I just want it for a little bit so I can hopefully help you out and assist you in protecting yourself and your family, not only financially from the things that are coming, but also spiritually. We, as you may or may not know, we always do like to throw a little bit of spiritual spice into this because Joe and I, we are Christians, and a lot of us know that the things that we're seeing today aren't necessarily very far off at all from things that we've read in the Bible. Doesn't mean we're at the end times, and I might go into that a little bit later, but I'm not going to write it off. I'm not in any way a prophet, nor will I pretend to be. So what I believe is happening is something that is artificial. Okay, I'm talking financially now. Artificial, it's being, how would you say, deconstructed. Our financial system is being deconstructed as we speak by the same usual suspects that brought this debt instrument to our doorstep in our bank accounts. So what I would like to talk about today, and there's a few things, and if you have any suggestions or you'd like to make some comments, Joe, go ahead with the studio phone, please. Where do they call? What do they do?
That's right. Feel free to call our studio at area code 956-789-0702. That's 956-789-0702. You can also go to our Facebook channel, our Facebook page, keyword KCYP, the city, or the City 977, or you can even go to Chris Ott's Facebook and ask a question on the Facebook Live chat, and
right.
We'll watch it here. We're monitoring it, and we'll answer your question. So please do call in or leave a text on the chat.
Thank you, Joe. I just I picked up the phone and I looked at the camera and I was going to see if we had any comments, and I saw that I still have my growth, my shadow here. So you ever have one of those days where it kind of catches up to you and you're like, wait a minute, I should be doing something a little bit more today. So yeah, I had some things roll up on me, some situations. So please forgive the scruff. Anyway, some of the things.
Cool. I think it looks cool.
Well, thank you, Joe. Thank you. Yeah, a little bit of what was Sonny? Was that Don Johnson's name in Miami Vice? Yeah,
oh, that's right.
Right. I think those were the guys. They pretty much brought that in, that whole Miami Vice set, right? They brought that, get a little 5 o'clock shadow going. Whatever. So there's a few things I want to talk about this week, and I guess we'll just revisit what we did last week, which was pretty cool. And I want to thank you, Joe, for getting out there on Instagram. And if you haven't seen it, we have a great interview from last week. Mr. Kung Lee, he's a world champion in Kung Fu, and I don't know if he was actually a world champion in UFC, but he was a bad dude, man. He was like, they coined him the best Kung Fu fighter of UFC.
Yeah, he was a champion on the UFC.
Oh, he was? Okay. In his weight, I don't even know if they did weight classes then. I don't know. But yeah, he's a champion of renown, I guess you could say. No doubt. And we had the opportunity to interview him last week, so it wasn't able to go out on Facebook Live, but yet I posted it. So it wasn't live on Facebook, but it was live on, I believe we did a Zoom call, so it was live on Zoom, and we may have gone into YouTube also. Regardless, we got it out there. It's there for you on my Facebook page to check out, both the Bitcoin Otter page and the Christopher Ott page. They're both there. He's a good guy. Christian man, and he's a how would you say, a double threat, Joe? So not only is he a world champion martial artist and UFC fighter, but he's also a spiritual warrior. So he went over. He touched a little bit on the exorcisms that he and his family do, and it was pretty interesting. He basically went over what we need to do if we want to clear out the house and kind of things like that. And if please send me some Facebook posts, emails, comments, whatever. Email would be bitcoinotter.media@gmail.com if you want to send me some emails and suggestions, maybe somebody that we could interview. We've got a couple more that we'd like to line up, but definitely we're looking at people that would want to either be interviewed or give us a suggestion of hey, I want to hear this guy or that gal interviewed on this subject or that subject. So please let us know, and we'll do that in a way that we can hopefully touch on subjects that you all want to hear. So when I prep for a show, I usually go through the news and I go through the things that yes, of course, touch on cryptocurrency because it is obviously the Bitcoin Otter show, but also we all know what occurred this week. They're still dealing with the fallout in Florida. So I do have family there, and perhaps many of our listeners and watchers do have family there, and my prayers go out to them. Our prayers go out to them. May they be able to recover quickly. May all be well. Normally you look at these storm things and you think, wow, they're really getting hit over there. But when you're personally affected, it's incredible the change in both attitudes of people and topography, I guess you could say. That you couldn't see the streets, right, because of the flood. And in some places, I think it was Fort Myers, Joe, I watched a house float down a street. I watched a house. Yeah, I said that. If you guys, if you missed that, I did say what you think I said. I watched a house float down the street. Not only did I see a house float down the street, I saw a shark swimming in the street. Wow. Yeah, there was a video. This guy made this video, and he's in his house. Hopefully, he was in his house and he wasn't trying to feed the shark, but he was looking outside his window, and you could clearly see the dorsal fin and the tail fin. They were out there, and the thing was just swimming around in the street. I suspect it wasn't very deep, but now how many ways you got to look before you cross that street, Joe?
That's right.
You're thinking of, well, maybe a bus, maybe a fast-moving car. How about a shark, Joe? How about a shark? I'm crossing the street, shark crossing, sharks, beware.
And then there's no short supply of alligators.
No, nothing. Floating alligators. Floating alligators, floating snakes. So, man, you got the Everglades over there. You've got, I can only imagine the stories that'll be coming out, but from the video that I saw, it was pretty intense. So our prayers, thoughts go out. Jesse, thank you for coming by. Omar, how you doing? Hope you're well. And Marcos, thanks for coming in. If you guys want to hear anything, updates or anything that you want to, talk about, just pop up with it. Our prayers, our thoughts go out to them. Hopefully they can recover quickly. Some of the they just went away, gone forever. But thankfully nothing structural happened to the house. That was a good thing. So there's a lot of things that went on in the week that came between our Kung Lee interview, which again was very interesting. Check it out. It'll be on Facebook. It'll be on YouTube, all that good stuff. So that was a good one. And then this week was pretty full with we got a bunch of stuff that happened to include the hurricane. But one of the ones that was popping up, and I don't imagine too many of us have missed it, was the blowing up of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, the natural gas pipeline. Do you remember? Did you read anything on that, Joe? Yep. Just before I go into my thoughts, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I haven't looked into it. If it was an attack or if it was an accident that occurred,
right?
Or if it was sabotage.
Yeah, it's pretty much the consensus with all around from the the Russian side, the Ukrainian side, the American side, the European side, all pretty much agree that it was definitely an attack, a sabotage. Now all the fingers are pointing at each other, right? So no one has come forward and said, "Hey, we did it," but we don't expect that to happen either. It's not like it's some sort of crazy terrorist cult. They're just a crazy nation state, whoever did it. That being said, perhaps it's a crazy regime that controls a legitimate nation state. And the reason I say that is, I personally believe that there was really only one or two potential winners with such a thing as that. And what I believe to be the winner chicken dinner, if you will, would be the ever-loving, infamous deep state. Okay. All right, Otter, you and your conspiracies. Why do you think it's a deep state now? Okay. Let me go over that quickly. It won't take long. So, who benefits from blowing up the pipeline? Now, everybody on this side anyway, in the Western Hemisphere, it was Russia. They want attention. They want to disrupt Europe's energy consumption. They want, it's war. It's an act of war, this, that, and other on the part of Russia. Okay. Let's think this through. Friends, neighbors, ladies, gentlemen, let's think this through. Russia has the spigot, if you will. They have I'm going to pretend I know what I'm talking about, and I don't. But let's just say you have a wheel that we all see in the movies, right, that cuts off a pipeline. They might have that. They might have the computer equivalent of that. But they have the shutoff valve, ladies and gents, and they've used it. Joe, I don't know if you read about that, but they did indeed shut off the fuel at one point or another, maybe perhaps in multiple occasions. And I do remember, and I think I may have reported it on the show, that one of those nations, I'm trying to think which one it was. I don't know. I don't think it was Germany. It was one of the European nations that didn't pay their bill, basically. And they refused to pay their bill in rubles. So Russia shut it off. So they have the ability to shut it off. Why would they blow it up? They're making a ton of money. They're making a ton of money selling energy like they always have to Europe. Now, the fools in Europe, I don't say that lightly, okay? Don't get on me for that word. I really mean it. They're fools. The fools that run the show over there in Europe, and I don't mean the average everyday people, the hardworking people of Germany, Spain, UK, all those pieces, all those places. They are hard workers there. I'm not calling them fools. The people I'm calling fools are the people that were installed and call themselves leaders of Europe. Yes, the ones that are strangling Europe of its energy, of its livelihood, of everything that is worthwhile in life to average people. They are starving the average people based on their evil ways. So, those are the fools. So, the fools who allowed Russia to control 40% of their energy, well, now they're paying. And like I said before, I'll say it again, in 2018, Donald Trump told them how foolish they were, and they laughed at him, proving themselves to be fools. Anyway, so why would Russia do it? They wouldn't, in my estimation. If you got something you really think, hey, this is why Russia did it, Putin is this, Putin is that, whatever, yeah, I'll entertain it. Yeah, throw it out there. I mean, my word is not written in stone. I've evaluated the situation, and I don't see Russia. Okay, so some people then will say Europe. Okay, Europe. What would they gain? What would be the motive? What would be the opportunity, and what would be the means by which Europe would be motivated to blow up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline? I don't see that either. I really don't. Germany, some were saying, yeah, maybe Germany did it to, I don't know, showcase their plight. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. England, yeah, they're a heavy hitter over there in Europe. They run a lot of things. London is the financial center of, many people say, the world, but at the very least, it's Europe. Yeah, that I still don't see it. I still see them dependent on this energy. They haven't successfully moved away, and as long as they use wind and solar, they will never, ever be able to move away effectively. They can move away, and then you don't have water, you don't have electricity and all that. That's what they intend. But they can't successfully replace fossil fuels at this point with the technology that they've shown us that they're willing to give us. So that's not in the cards, as it were. So who would have the means, the opportunity, and the intent? Gee, do you think it might be somebody who recently had a highly operative naval exercise in the area where the explosion was? Do you think if there was a first world nation that had an exercise of some sort, a training endeavor in that area of highly trained frogmen, so to speak? I won't use the whole. Everybody knows who we in the U.S. use. I'm not going to blame it on them. I don't know. But let's just say there was some first world nation that had almost unlimited resources that they give out to people whenever they want to. Maybe they could call it the nation that currently we're living in. Perhaps could it be the United States, or better said, the people who are now controlling, very much controlling policy in the United States? Okay, what are their means? How could they get it done? Well, they indeed did have a naval exercise in that very area, Joe. They had such an exercise, and it was wow. Would you believe that they were training on explosives? Would you believe that? Gee whiz. Go figure. Okay, so there's the means. They had the means and the opportunity. It's all wrapped up in one. So yes, we have, some would say, the best. Some would say it's inarguable that we have the best naval force in the world. And they are very good at what they do. So they had the opportunity, having that force. The means, well, that's the means, having that force. The opportunity was the location and the fact that, yeah, they were doing an exercise there. And what is the intent? What is the motive, if you will? Well, there's a couple that I can see. Here's the first one. The U.S. has energy companies. We saw this in the Iraq, Afghanistan, and all that, right? It was such a coincidence, a huge coincidence, and everyone who's watched before knows that I do not believe in coincidences. But it was such a huge coincidence that when we went into Iraq and we already knew who blew up the Twin Towers like 2 minutes later, that we were effectively going to send in the huge oil apparatus called Halliburton to an oil-rich country. Coincidence, right? And further coincidence, Joe, was that the vice president at the time, Dick Cheney, and there was a purposeful pause there, Mr. Cheney. Mr. Cheney was one of the controlling interests of said energy company, said oil company, Halliburton. Again, a coincidence, and yeah. Yeah, coincidence. And it is also a coincidence that his daughter, Liz, is a traitor to our nation. But I digress. So, that being said, the people who run policy in this current phase of our country, both, or in three ways, had the means, the opportunity, and the motive, right? So what else is the motive? Motive would be selling more energy. That's one we just went over. Here's another motive for you. They really believe in sanctions against Russia. These foolish fools, they really do believe that sanctions are the way to go with Russia. Now, if you've tuned into our previous shows, you'll know that the Russian sanctions are really only benefiting one nation. And do you remember what nation it's really benefiting, Joe?
I don't remember, but I can take a guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's Russia. Yeah, Russia's winning big in this one. The Western central bankers cut them off from the, I guess you could call it this transaction system. It's called the SWIFT system. So anytime you or I make a transaction on a debit card or a credit card or from bank to bank, it's the SWIFT system. So this system was used worldwide, and the usual suspects said, you're not using our banking system, Russia. You are being sanctioned, Russia. We're really going to hurt you. All right, so how did that go over? As I've said before, necessity is the mother of invention. Now, that being said, they needed a system that would allow them to make these transactions, so they invented one. They made it up. There's some smart people in Russia, Joe. We do not have a corner on that, okay? Especially in Washington, D.C. We do not have a corner on smart, technologically advanced, and savvy people. We do not. They're all over the world. Bitcoin is my, case in point. A lot of people out there worldwide running Bitcoin miners, nodes, if you will. So, that being said, the system was invented, and they no longer need the SWIFT system. Whatever, meh. What? They win. They win because they don't have, that sanction was neutralized, right? What other? I think Starbucks and McDonald's backed out of Russia. You're sanctioned. We're not going to deal with you. We're big, huge companies. Goodbye. Okay. Well, the buildings were left because they can't take the buildings. They're on Russian soil. So what does Russia do? They were left lemons. They made lemonade. They have new restaurants in the McDonald's franchises. They have, which probably have real meat, by the way. There's probably real meat in the old, where McDonald's inhabited. Now there's real meat. So, Starbucks, that I won't say too much, but that conglomerate is gone, and I'm sure they got their own coffee in there. Who knows what kind of Russian coffee there is, but I'm sure it's just as good as Starbucks. That being said, they did what they had to do. Another, tine in the fork that the usual suspects figure where they would poke into Russia and say, you're done. Put a fork in it. Didn't work. So it was 3, 4, who knows how many tines they had in that fork to, hey, put a fork in them, they're done. Didn't work. Didn't work. So we got Russia dancing to the tune, their own tune, because they're not dancing to the tune of the Federal Reserve. They're not dancing to the central bankers anymore. They've become, can I dare say use the word free? They've become off the hook of the central bankers, the Western central bankers. So they're making their own inroads with China, with Brazil, India, South Africa, the BRICS nations, right? So I'm going a little bit afar, but I am going to make a point. Germany, is going through a lot, and it's only fall. Wait till Germany gets into wintertime. The German people are already out in the streets. They're protesting. You won't see it if you watch TV. You won't hear about it if you read newspapers. You won't. So don't do that anymore. It's only putting I don't have a lot of brain cells left after my childhood, my young years, but the ones that I have still would be turned to mush if I started watching TV news or reading newspapers. It's just bad for your brain health. That being said, the German people are already up in arms. They despise what's going on. They hate what it is that their installed leaders are doing. Because remember, the European Union does not have elections, so to speak, in each individual nation, perhaps. And, another thing, and we'll touch on this later. Let me write this down. So, the European Union installs leaders. That Lagarde woman, that specter of a woman, she's installed, okay? She's not elected. You don't elect someone to the European Council. It just doesn't work that way. They tell you who's going to rule over you, and that's that. Okay? So, Germany, what's going to happen in the wintertime, Joe? What do you think's going to happen when they don't have energy?
Oh, that's horrible. Not those German winters.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with the whole geography over there, it's cold, man. It's cold. It's like our northern states. It's, you take the same latitude and you go across, and there it is. It's cold. And then you got the Nordic states with Sweden, Norway, etc. So it's just not going to be good for German people for many different reasons. But the biggest one is they're part of the European Union. That's why things are not good for German people. They're part of that, oppression. So, that being said, what I believe the biggest motive was for the deep state, the usual suspects, the criminal syndicate, the Illuminati, the cabal, whatever you want to call them, why would they blow up the Nord Stream 2? Because they don't want Germany to waffle on the sanctions, ladies and gentlemen. They don't want Germany to say, you know what? We give up. We're going to buy your energy. We give up. Send us all you got. We're freezing over here. And they were afraid of that, Joe. The usual suspects were afraid that Germany was going to waffle on the sanctions, and now they can't because they're not going to be able to get energy from that source anymore. I can't remember what the estimates were, but we're talking months to repair the damage. It's incredible. Yeah, they did it right if you want to speak it that way. They did it up so that it couldn't be easily patched. Nobody's going down there with one of those bike repair kits, Joe. That ain't going to cut it. Not on this one. So, yeah, so my finger is pointed right at the usual suspects. Again, the deep state, the criminal syndicate, the people who are currently ruling and reigning U.S. policy, if you will, the ones that go into a meeting and talk or try to talk to a politician who tragically died in a car accident. So the resident tried to talk to a woman that he sent out a notice to her family and how sorry he was, and he was asking where she was. We have our own issues here. We may have, we may have some issues this winter also. That being said, another thing that went on, I got some things popping up here. Al's watching, Strozzi's watching, Danny's watching. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Pop up on the comments there, and we'll see if we can get your subjects or whatever it is you want to talk about. Tell me I'm way off track if you think so. It doesn't bother me. I hear it all the time. I don't always agree with it. Sometimes I do. I'll have to recant. Hey, I didn't know that piece of information. Right? Got to keep your mind open for new information. If it doesn't jive with what it is you have in your mind, then, well, reconfigure. Try to use your logical, critical thinking skills. And if you have to backtrack on what it is you've said, then you do so politely. You do so with courage, because it's not always easy. But if we don't want to be like the mind-warped beehive mentality, then we do have to acknowledge that some of our thoughts are no longer pertinent, or our points have perhaps been contravened or been made moot in some way. So let's do that. So another thing, let's move on of this week's news. Great news in my estimation, okay? Now, I don't know if we're talking about, women's rights and all that. I think it's great. I think, women are just as valuable in the eyes of God as men. There's no hierarchy there. We do have different roles. I will never say that we are equal. I will never say that all things should be done the same for each of God's sexes that he created. Women do certain things better than men, and vice versa. But I do want to say that I congratulate the country of Italy for electing a woman prime minister who publicly states that her values are God, family, and country. Wow, what a refreshing message, both from Europe and it would be great to hear it again here in the United States. We won't from this current resident. The resident will not be saying such things, nor will the people who write his scripts. That said, this woman, Georgia is her name. I can't remember her last name. I just remembered, and I wrote it down on the notes I have here. If anybody has it, just throw it up. But maybe I'll look it up here. So she has said, yes, I'm running on solid principles: God, family, country. Okay, so those are the principles that move a nation forward. Those are the principles that move a family forward. Okay, then we go to the second step: a community forward, a state, and a nation. Okay, and things need to be done on that basis. We have to know that if we do things right in the home, then they will automatically have some sort of good in the community that we live in, and then our state, and then our nation. We have to start at the basics, right? So, you know what? This is crazy. I'm just looking this up for everybody. I'm going to try and George's last name. I'm trying to find it. So, Maloney is her last name, right? So, everything's far right, okay? And the bastion of truth, Salon. Yeah, that is very much sarcasm, in case you didn't catch it. The slimy outlet named Salon says Italy's new prime minister is really a fascist. There you go. So yeah, we got their opinion on that. But the fact of the matter is, the usual suspects are very worried. They're in a if they're not in outright panic mode yet, they will be, because the boomerang effect is just, it's going fast. It's quickly catching up to them. The things that they're doing, both in the past and in the present, and what they plan for us in the future, are so transparent now. Anyone can see it if they want to. If you have ears to hear, eyes to see, you can see. You can hear these things. You just have to pay attention and unplug from where it is they want you to be plugged in. They want you to engage in their lies. They want you to be on the social media, rooting them on. They want you to be watching TV. They want you to watch or their TV programs, their shows. They keep you dancing with the stars, with the Kardashians if you want to. But they don't want you thinking for yourself. They don't want you thinking for yourself at all. There's no way that they could possibly deal with you if you thought for yourself in some form or fashion. And I mean this in a sense of freedom, not in a sense of chaos or violence. Be ungovernable. Make yourself above their rules on a moral stance, meaning be a better person than what they want you to be. Care for your fellow man. Don't throw insults. Don't try to fight with someone if they have a difference of opinion. Try to tell them what it is that you believe is the truth, and then just move on. If they want to fight, just walk away. There's other people you can talk to, but morally raise the bar. You don't have to deal with the people who write these stupid articles in the New York Times, the Washington Compost. It's just a bunch of lies. And they're very obvious lies, and I could translate that stuff all day long, but we're here for a little bit of other news. So we're running right along. I don't know what time we actually started, Joe, but I think we're probably around the midpoint of the show. Nobody's calling in on what's the hotline, the Otter phone?
The number to the studio is 956-789-0702. That's 956-789-0702.
Yeah, give us a call.
You can always write your comments on the chat there on Facebook Live.
So I'm gonna give you guys the sources as I usually do, and I recommend these sources because they come from a completely different angle than the average news outlet, such as the New York Slimes, the Washington Compost, things like that, right? So this one, and this one is loaded. Okay, I want to warn you. I want to forewarn you that this one's loaded. So the Gateway Pundit put this one out. The first openly trans U.S. Army officer and wife arrested in plot to give medical records to Russia. Okay, so now I'm not going to read the whole article. I just want to let you know this is what's going on, right? So apparently an Army major, Jamie Lee Henry, who is, and I want to be sensitive about this. Let's just say he looks very much like a man. But he wears women's clothing, which is his choice. I wear this. Joe wears that. We could have worn dresses, Joe. We could have if we really wanted to. Probably would have been better if we shaved first, but we could have worn dresses. We just don't do that. We don't, for various reasons. This guy, Mr. Jamie Lee Henry, decides that he wants to wear a dress. Fine. Perfectly fine. That's what he wants to do. As long as he's not pushing it on kids or whatever, that's what he wants to do. That's what he does. Who am I, right? Anyway, he's an officer, and he's accused of betraying the military and his country by working with his wife, Dr. Anna Gabrielin, an anesthesiologist at Johns Hopkins. They wanted to give medical records to Russia. I don't know what kind of medical records. I don't know what it was. I don't know all the details. But I guess they're at Fort Bragg, and the couple was dealing with an undercover FBI agent, pause intentional, posing as a Russian embassy staffer after Gabrielin, that's the wife's name, had allegedly reached out to the Russian embassy. Gabrielin reportedly claimed she was motivated by patriotism for Russia. And in my notes here, I have the word caution with asterisks. Caution, caution, caution. Because this brought up some red flags to me. Not to say that it didn't happen this way. Perhaps it did. I don't know anything more than what I read. But the caution that I would give everyone, especially if you are a conservative of thought and you enjoy freedom and you enjoy the things that we speak about on this show all the time. I say have caution because we don't want to go overboard and we don't want to beat up on this individual because he wears a dress. We don't want to do that. That is the wrong way to go. You don't want to say, oh, it's obvious because this person wears a dress that this person's going to be a traitor to the nation. Let's not go there. Let's not assume that, okay? I mean, remember Klinger from MASH, right? I don't think he wasn't treasonous, and he wore dresses, right? So there. Yeah, you didn't think I'd be able to come up with a good reason. Buzz, I came up with a good one. Remember, all of you that are old enough to have watched MASH? Klinger was not a traitor. A little eccentric, yeah, but he wasn't a traitor. So let's not go off on that. Caution, caution. The other thing is, as the story states, may or may not be true, but the story states that the FBI was involved. The FBI was involved. I don't like to touch anything. I wouldn't touch anything with a 12-foot pole that an FBI has touched. They specialize in finding crime. I suspect that sometimes, Joe, they find the man. And then they find the crime. I think that is the case in many an FBI prosecutorial process. Show me the man. Okay? And if any of you are familiar with that, then good on you. So the FBI is involved, 1. 2, it's a person, a man who wears a dress. 2, that's number 2. I already said that. Number 3, it's Russia. Okay? It couldn't have been China. We can't say anything bad about China, right? We can't do that. So it had to be Russia. So there are 3 red flags in this story. So if you come upon this in your travels, tread lightly. If you want to go on social media or whatever and decry the treason, it might very well be. But just be aware that it could be a trap. It could be something that we're unwittingly falling into if we don't have caution. So caution on that one. Here's another one from the Gateway Pundit. A Planned Parenthood doctor and Democrat witness on Thursday. This is a doctor now, mind you, a doctor, not someone like a doctor of English, a doctor of mechanics, a doctor of. This is apparently a medical doctor. His name is Kumar, Dr. Kumar, and he sat in front of Congress and he said that men can get pregnant. Yeah, so he's a doctor, and he says men can get pregnant in front of Congress. Now, I'm not saying they're going to get pregnant in front of Congress, but in front of Congress, what he said was that men can get pregnant. So I'm not sure that these individuals actually they consider their words. Maybe they do. Although I would suspect that they consider their words for effect more than they do in a logical sense. That's my suspicion. That they say these things for effect. They say these things to promote an agenda. They say these things to move their narrative forward and make another hack into the whatever righteous agenda that America used to have. It needs to be eliminated for their process and their narrative and their agenda and their plans to go through. So that's why I think they say what they say. But apparently he's a doctor. So be advised, if you get a new doctor and you want to learn who he is or where they stand before you let them, maybe surgery or something like that. Ask them if men can get pregnant. That's a pretty good litmus test, I would say. I mean, hey, doc, men, me, you suspect I can get pregnant? You think maybe I'll get pregnant? You think maybe you're going to have to do a cesarean on me or something? That might be a good question if you're vetting a doctor. Just saying. Okay, this one here is from, remember I was talking about him earlier, Joe, before we went on the air, Mr. Ricky Gamboa. He was on our show a couple months ago. We're going to have to get him back. We haven't had him in a while, and he's a really smart blockchain programmer, inventor, individual, really smart, right? So anyway, Mr. Gamboa, in his This is his Brain Trust crypto news aggregate. He says, in a recent interview, BitMEX chief Alexander Hopner shared his thoughts about institutional investors who, in this view, have an appetite still for crypto and Ethereum. He means Bitcoin when he says crypto. So we're seeing that in the industrial sense, Bitcoin is still being shoveled up by those people, the industrial people who want to put it on their ledger. What else do we have here? Also, from Brain Trust Cryptos. Russia's top exchanges waiting for Moscow's green light on cryptocurrency payments. Another thing that Russia is doing well. They are proposing, and it's already in their process there, that Bitcoin be used for international trade settlements. Yes. See, while we are going backwards and our government is threatening to impose central bank digital currencies on us, which they will program and, make us do whatever they want us to do, then monetarily, then we have the other side that is being sanctioned, inventing things, making things easier for average people, and in this case, nation states to do business with Bitcoin, right? So we need to really rethink things. If we're watching TV, rethink it. If we're reading a newspaper or a magazine or like a salon, let's see, first of all, check your hands, make sure they didn't get anything on them, and then just recalibrate what it is that you're imbibing mentally. What are you really reading? Get some alternative perspectives. Think things through. You know what I mean? So here's another one, and we're going on a little bit long, and I want to make sure everybody knows that here on 97.7 FM, we got another show that comes up after us called Cultivarte with Gabby. Okay, she does a good job of interviewing local people here and showing them the arts, showing them movies, showing them videos, music, etc. Very good show. What do we have here? We got a comment? Oh, Greg Abbott popped up on my feed there. Yeah, good guy, that guy. So I didn't show this on coming in, but I like to do this. Gold is at $1,668 per ounce today. Silver is at $19.09, a little bit up, but again, highly suppressed. Should be way higher. And Bitcoin is at $19,494 per Bitcoin, which also means that Bitcoin is 19,494 times better than the US dollar. Just so you know. Just had to throw that in there. Anyway, our last news article for the day. This comes from Zero Hedge. Record number of New York residents changing driver's licenses to Florida. Why would they do that? Because they're moving out, Joe. They're gone. They've had enough of New York's mess, New York's problems, New York's New Yorkism, whatever it might be. So, according to the New York Post, a total of 5,838 New Yorkers made the switch in August. 1 month. 1 month. Almost 6,000 New Yorkers left to go to Florida. They probably left for other places, more people. Who knows, 10, 12 grand? But almost 6,000 of them moved to Florida. The second highest number for a single month in recorded history, it says, which makes a year-to-date figure 41,885 New Yorkers have abandoned their northern licenses after moving south. There's a reason for this, everybody. And we could do it on the other coast, too. Let's not pick on the East Coast. The West Coast, California, the California, they call it, some people. Yeah. They're hemorrhaging people with good reason. The only thing I caution is, please, New York, California, do not bring the political viewpoints of those, I dare say, hellholes with you. Please. Here in Texas, Florida, other places, we don't want it. We live here because we don't want it. So please don't bring that nastiness to us. So this came from a retired NYPD lieutenant who moved his family to Jacksonville, and he told the Post that New Yorkers still have a buffet of reasons to bid farewell. I like that, Joe. I like that. They have a buffet of reasons. So you can just pick them. Pick the reason. There's many. So I won't go further into that, but what I will do is do a recap, okay? The recap of the show. What did we start out with? Well, we started out, okay, with some things about the Nord Stream pipeline getting blown up. That was not a good thing, not for average people, but for the usual suspects. It just happens to work right into their plans. They kind of like it because they did it, my opinion. Again, my opinion. So we talked about that. We talked about the new Prime Minister, Mrs. Meloni of Italy. She is for God. She's for family. She's for values that bring her country forward, not backward, which is what the European Union does. It brings you backward. You know, sometimes you got electricity, sometimes you got gas, sometimes you got heat, sometimes you don't. In fact, I think it's coming to the point where most of the time you won't. You won't have that stuff. But that's the way they want it. So we did that. We went on to let's see, what else did we talk about? We went to the fact that industrial people, business owners, are still heavily using Bitcoin on their ledgers to accommodate real estate, also on their ledgers, and gold. And they continue to believe that Bitcoin is just as good as gold, just as good as real estate. And some people like Mr. Saylor, Michael Saylor, he believes that it's even better. So he is all Bitcoin. He's all in on Bitcoin. So we spoke about a bunch of things today. And I want to thank you for coming in, for listening to the show, and having patience, because we were on a little bit late. We had another snafu, and I don't know if you remember, Joe said it earlier, we got flooded here in the studio last week. So I guess the AC froze over in the pipe, coincidentally, that I don't believe in coincidences, was right over the studio. And we, at that very week, were interviewing a man who is quite the spiritual warrior and a Christian man. He got his message out because God is good, God is strong, God is great. And we did say many prayers, and that helped, I'm sure. So God bless all of you. Thank you for tuning in. Continue tuning in here on 97.7 KCYP, the city, here in McAllen. We're going to have a good show after mine. And we thank you again for coming on.
That's right. We want to send a shout out to Ruben Lowen, who's listening. He had a question, and we were wrapping up the show. So we're going to save that question for next week.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Ruben. Much appreciated. In fact, it'll give me a little bit of time to research it, and I'll come back right at you, Ruben. Much appreciated.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching us, and thank you for tuning in. Until next time, keep listening to 97.7 FM, The City.